Hi, and welcome to another edition of Mansfield Matters. I'm your host, Danielle Fish, and today we have a really interesting topic, sort of bringing a new sport to Mansfield, as it were. We're a big sports town with lots of wonderful sports to choose from if you have a youngster in the town. But here's something that I think you're going to be interested in learning a little bit more about, because I do think it's coming to Mansfield very soon. And here to tell us a little bit more about that is Mansfield resident Todd Elliott. You may know him. He's a dad in town, and his wife Shannon and two children, Rhiannon and Colin, are both here in Mansfield, in the Mansfield schools. And he also has brought with him a guest, Chip Walker of Wrentham. And together they are playing for the King Black Phillips and the Providence, Rhode Island Rugby League area, and they're looking at bringing this sport to us. So here today to tell us a little bit more is Todd and Chip. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Sure, and Todd, I neglected to mention right out of the gate that not only do we know you from your beautiful family, is also that you're a local artist here in town.
Thank you.
And you're active in the Mansfield Cultural Council, too.
Yes, I am, and a couple other councils here in town.
Go ahead,
too.
throw it out. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I've just started working with the youth drug and alcohol awareness group as well. So
great group.
Yeah, it is fantastic. So I hope to do more with that in the near future. So
great. But today it's all about rugby. We're going to learn something here, folks, because this is not my wheelhouse. We've had football on and the cheerleaders on, and I know we're going to try to get other sports in town on too. But today it's all about rugby, and I'm going to start with you, Chip. What is rugby?
Well, let me tell you, rugby is it's very similar to football. We're promoting it as being the safe alternative to football. But just to give you some background, rugby started about 100 years ago in England. Some boys were playing soccer at a public school, which in this country would be a private school. And this was in a town called Rugby. And one of the boys picked up the ball and ran with it. And they thought that looked like more fun than what they'd been doing up to then. And that was the first day of rugby. And rules developed around that. And here we are now with worldwide rugby organizations. There are 15 players on each team. There are forwards and there are backs. You know, these are terms familiar to football players. One of the major differences is that the ball can only travel backwards when you're passing it. There is no throwing the ball forward. Okay. And also there is no blocking. You don't block each other. So as the ball's progressing down the field, it's being passed from one player to the next. And the goal is to score a try, which is just like a touchdown. And then there's a conversion, which goes with it for 2 points. So it's very similar to football. And in fact, football is the child of rugby.
It really is.
Yeah. Really? That's really well put. I think you really nailed that. I'm following it, so that clearly means that you've been able to do that. You've been successful. Now, Chip, when did you start playing rugby yourself?
I played since I was 12. And so I was playing at my high school right through till I was 18. I was captain of my team, my school team. And it was fantastic. It was such a sense of team spirit, you know, and on that, one of the things that you hear about in this country is that maybe rugby is a tough sport, maybe it's injury prone, or maybe it's a rabble-rousing game, and I have to tell you, it really isn't. It's played, as in England they would say, by gentlemen. It's a sport where you play as hard as you can, but with respect to the other team.
That's right. There's a lot of camaraderie, and even in the adult league, so they get together after the game, which is quite an unusual thing. I mean, they think that the opponents generally just go to their respective locker rooms and that's it, but we try to meet up with one another afterwards and talk about the game. So it's a great community, and it's a great, and you train and you play your hardest to do it, and everybody has their responsibilities out there, and it is teamwork. Another neat thing, too, about it, it's different than American football. It's continuous play, so there's no downs. The ball has to keep going. And so it's it requires a great deal of endurance. And then also, on top of that, what's I going to go with that? But it constantly moves, and so there's no downs. The ball gets pitched out again and keeps going. The only time the game really stops is for penalties, and so that's about the only time you can take a breath.
Is it indoor and outdoor, just like you would find?
It's mostly outdoor, actually.
It is mostly
there are 15 players on each side, as I mentioned earlier. But what's popular now on television, particularly in this country, is 7-a-side rugby, where you have an abbreviated team. So you only have 3 forwards instead of 8. and there are only 4 backs instead of 7.
Okay.
Yeah, and the play is for a shorter period of time.
Yeah, it's 7-minute half.
I was going to
Yeah.
ask how they got
Yeah.
its
And
name.
they still play on a full pitch though, so a full field, and it's a lot of exertion.
It's stamina.
Yeah,
you know,
it really is stamina.
One of a football player from this country went to England to try it out, see if he liked rugby, and this was I don't know who it was, but he was a very respected, well-known football player, and he was totally unprepared for the stamina requirement. Yeah. He was a much more explosive, short-term player, but he couldn't keep up with the rugby players who were playing for 40 minutes flat out.
Yeah.
And then having a short break and then another 40 minutes.
Yep.
Whoops.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. And you're ready to play on.
You're all ready to go,
yeah.
I would go for it, but I'm not trained.
The other thing I was going to say too is it's every player gets to hold the ball, so every player gets to run. Those opportunities arise quite a bit. So it's not like you just have backs carrying the ball all the time. Forwards end up carrying the ball as well.
It also, from a layman's perspective, sounds like it is very much a combination of soccer and football.
It comes from that, yeah.
You always hear the soccer players have a great deal of stamina. It's constant running,
constant running,
up and down a long field. So
and all sizes play. So I mean, even on my team on Providence, I mean, we have small guys, probably around 160 pounds, but I'm out on the same field with guys that are 240 and 250 pounds and more. So so you have that broad range of guys that are carrying balls and tackling one another.
But that's okay because the tackle isn't quite the same as a football tackle.
Right.
So it's
not
okay
as
to
dangerous.
And in terms of youth rugby, we're not even talking about tackling.
I was going to say that was going to kind of lead into my next question. So perfect, Todd. So my question to you was: so how is rugby in America today? You know, so how has it played the same way as it was brought over from England? Does it have a season? Like, when do you look to play rugby if you're looking to get involved?
This is the beautiful thing about it. It's all year round.
Ah, okay.
And there's even a tournament happening right now over in in Europe. But it's a fall. Here in New England, we have fall and spring seasons.
Okay.
Generally, we work with the kids at the end of spring and into the summer. Cause that's usually a free time for the players to get in and involved to coach.
Okay.
And so, but it's played all year round, and they even play in the snow. But it's a great game.
Well, the conditions have to be safe.
They have to be safe.
Yeah, so
the fields all have to be checked out first. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in an international game, if any of the players who inspect the field before the game say they don't think it's safe, then the referee is obliged to cancel the game.
Okay.
Which happened last year. The fields were frozen in France, and they actually called off a game.
So in that instance, the fields are too hard, or maybe a player may go out and observe there's a lot of rocks within the ground, so if they fell or tripped, they would be injured. Wow. So there's a really a proclivity to safety overall.
Safety is number one.
You know?
Yeah,
it is actually the number one rule. And in fact, even before my games, we have our cleats inspected. We have to have the proper cleats on.
Okay.
So
no metal spikes. Then.
Right. And well, with some of the children who show up for our games, we have to make sure they're not wearing belts.
Yeah.
You know, and they haven't got a necklace, or there's maybe a girl might have an earring because she forgot she had an earring in or something.
Yeah. Okay.
So we make sure everybody's totally safe. And they inspect each other and they inspect the field and. These are 5-year-olds up to 12-year-olds. And are we all safe? Are we all ready to go? Yes, good.
Yeah.
Now, you said a key word there that I just noticed that we hadn't heard earlier is girls. So this is a sport that I know Todd said of all sizes, but girls.
Girls too.
So they same league, or do they play separately?
They play, obviously, girls on girls. You don't have, I've never heard of a mixed team.
Well, but we, in the youth, will allow mixed,
we are,
yes.
Okay.
Because of the numbers. We want everybody to participate together. So, and because it's flag, it's, the girls can be involved with that. There's no contact. But I was just heard this past weekend that the United States women came in second place down in Houston, Texas, only losing to England, which is a pretty good team to lose to. But,
exactly.
But the women in the sevens tournament took second place, and that is international against great teams like New Zealand and South Africa, and our women came in second.
Fabulous.
So fabulous
good
news
to hear.
indeed. So
And on my group, on our group, we have one girl who's 5 years old.
Oh,
Yeah, and then we have another who's about 11. So we have of ages and boys and girls.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, we for a sport that originated elsewhere, it started in England. I love 100 years old, and I love the story about how it started. We like soccer, but we're going to pick up the ball and go with it. And you talked about, ironically, the USA is reigning Olympic rugby champion.
That's correct, from 20 and 24, and it's now coming back to the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we're going to see it in the format of sevens because it's a great format for tournaments. So it'll be perfect for the Olympics. Right now, technically, there's 93 countries that have rugby teams, but I think there'll probably just be the top 2 tiers, which the United States would be included in that, so that'll be in Brazil.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's really catching on, and in our notes, and we chatted before the show, you mentioned that even Prince Harry took to some rugby on the beach, or beach rugby, during his Royal Jubilee visit to Brazil.
Yeah.
So even when you're on the fly, the Royals are playing rugby.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
So you're on the beach. What do you need to play rugby? What's the equipment? How do you gear up to play rugby?
Let's start. The ball,
ball.
which Todd is showing here, very similar and recognizable to any football player, but it doesn't have the laces on it.
No laces.
Okay.
And it's not as sharp around the ends. You'll notice it's more
rounded. A little bit more blunt.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's another piece of equipment. This is called a scrum cap. This scrum cap is a child's size. It's actually my son's. He's 10. This is the only protection you get when you play rugby.
So, other than a mouth guard.
Maybe a mouth guard, yeah.
You have your mouth guard.
And this helmet has actually, or the scrum cap has evolved over the years. I had one 40 years ago where it was more of just a couple of straps with padding over the ears, because the whole purpose of the scrum cap was to protect your ears, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because when there's a scrum, and just to describe that, a scrum is when the forwards form like a crab, and they go down like this, and then they engage each other. So
shoulder to head.
Shoulder to head. So and it's done in a controlled manner. You crouch, pause, engage. And as you go onto each other like that, your heads are all passing each other, so the ears start to get rubbed.
Okay.
So if you see a rugby player with cauliflower ears, then you know that
he
wasn't wearing a scrum cap.
He wasn't wearing a scrum cap.
So the idea is to protect the ears,
Yeah.
but with some of the concerns about more severe injuries, they've started to put some padding around here, which tries to protect you from what lacerations, I guess,
Lacerations.
or slight bumps, or if someone's cleat just catches you. Your head is at least protected by that.
Yeah.
It's not intended for high impact. You would never tackle someone head
their
on.
head.
I was just
with
going
one
to
of
say,
these.
for people at home, if you've never seen one before, it's something that's very lightweight. It almost feels styrofoamy, but it's not
foam. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's foam, but it's strong. But it does show that it
extremely
covers.
light.
But it's
Yeah.
nowhere near a helmet. Right?
No, it's
And then
not like a traditional helmet at all.
Not at
But
all.
it's not needed.
And then we have shirts too, which I can show you.
Yeah, the
Sure.
jerseys.
Yeah, this is a rugby shirt or rugby jersey. It's very typical. You see them everywhere in the stores. They're advertised as rugby jerseys as a fashion item.
Right.
But this is an authentic one. This is a child size. It's number 21. It's a London team called the London Wasps. You'll notice the short sleeve. You see the advertising on here. The sturdy collar, very sturdy stitching. It's designed for rough and tumble.
Okay.
For pulling and grabbing.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no protection on here either. There's no padding built into this. So I thought you might enjoy that. So that's,
I do.
That's a London club. I mean, there are clubs throughout the British Isles.
Yeah.
Most towns have clubs. London has many clubs.
What are some of the? I love it. One is London Wasps. What are some of the other names?
If I could show you this one.
Sure.
This is Sevenoaks, which is the town where I was born and raised. So this is the town. These are the town colours for Sevenoaks, and this is a youth shirt. It's got a little bit of padding on here, but that's more, for strength
The sturdiness
of the shirt rather
right.
than anything else. And you'll see the logo on here.
Nice little crest.
Yeah. And then here's another one. This is the New Zealand All Blacks.
Yep.
That is
The world's best team.
the world's best team. This is a child-sized shirt. This is my son's shirt.
I was just going to say, how did you get? Oh,
Yeah.
this is sort of like how we would wear the Celtics jerseys or a Patriots jersey.
Exactly,
Kids
yeah.
that like rugby are wearing.
These
it.
guys are like the Patriots of the world of rugby.
Excellent.
They're
Okay,
a very
New
good
Zealand.
team.
Got
Yeah,
it.
so the New Zealand All Blacks. And just a little anecdote on the All Blacks. That they coming from New Zealand, the Aborigines of New Zealand were the Maoris. And the Maoris would do these war dances where they would, when they're engaging the enemy, they would form a line, and then they would start dancing around and sticking their tongues out and making terrible symbols, and it was designed to intimidate the opposition. So the All Blacks have adopted that war dance. So before every game with the international team, they will line up in front of the opposition and go through what's called the haka, which is H-A-K-A. And they do this singing and they do slapping and they make funny eyes, and it's all based on the Aboriginal war dance. And to face one of those is extremely intimidating.
It sounds like it is, but you know, it sounds like it's very rich in tradition, which is, I think, fun for a sport to have. A lot of history going back and a lot of fun things associated. Like you said, the camaraderie with your team, you know, the colors of the shirts, and even down to some dances that you know, go to really intimidate your the challenger. So that's pretty neat. Now, and speaking of names, your team is called the Blackcaps, correct? You play on for the Blackcaps.
Yeah, the King Philip Blackcaps. I came up with a name with Todd's help because of the local connection. And I was trying to demonstrate that we're not just Wrentham or just Mansfield. We are the territory that would be associated with King Philip, which is, you know, within at least 15 miles of Wrentham. We call them the Blackcaps because that's the state bird, the black-capped chickadee.
Very nice.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be fun. And then there's, if you're an international rugby player, and you play a game, you get what's called a cap.
Which is kind of the funny thing about it.
Okay.
So we thought, so now we got this word cap in the Blackcaps with King Philip. And then finally, so it's the King Philip Blackcaps RFC, and RFC is Rugby Football Club.
Love it. Yeah. Very clever, very thoughtful. No surprise that Todd came up with that, quite honestly.
And Todd designed the logos for it, and they're fantastic. So
really neat. So it's an emerging you know, a league, and I was just going to say, how is the team doing in terms of looking to expand it? Is it catching on?
It's catching on.
About it.
Yes. Yeah. We have, if every child showed up, I'd have 20 children show up for our scrimmages.
Okay.
And we play every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. You know, throughout the year, as long as the conditions are right.
Okay.
This winter's been a bit soft for us because of the snow and the hard ground, but last year we went a full year without stopping.
Yeah. That's terrific. So it is, again, a real emerging sport. People are coming to it. Do you see the parents wanting to get involved when they realize?
Yes, actually the parents do, in fact, and that's kind of the nice thing, because we'll have opportunities to play with the kids and get out there and throw the ball with them during practice. And the kids, of course, they want to tackle you and bring you down. But the other thing I was going to mention too is with the town of Wrentham, Chips is working out his league to get help with the recreational board there now in Wrentham, and then of course Providence, which is why I'm here, is doing a lot this coming spring. Again, last year they held clinics throughout the year, both in the spring and in the summer, and it actually went into the fall last year too. And the nice thing is we get the women and the men's from the team to come out and help and give instructions to the kids. Last winter, we were at Cumberland High School, which is too far from here.
Right.
Yeah, it's 20-25 minutes. We were at the high school inside their gymnasium, running through drills and the whole thing. I had my son Colin signed up for that, and it was fantastic. And another father here in town, the same way, brought his son down for that. And so it's a lot of ball handling drills.
Okay.
You know, because there's a lot of passing involved. Communication is very important. Because your support guys are always behind you. You have to let the guy with the ball know where you are. So sometimes it's just a signal call, you know, like here, you know, and they can hear you, and then you dump the ball off to that person. Okay. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of running around the cones. But the first thing we do is we loosen up. It's usually running around the pitch or in the gymnasium. And then going through dynamic stretches, which really does prevent injuries anyway. So by just stretching out, you're avoiding injuries right off the bat. So the twisted ankles aren't going to happen so much. And then it's just really getting down to the passing skills, because that's very important. And running with the ball. Running with the ball in rugby is totally different than our traditional football. Okay. We actually hold the ball out like this because you want to have the alternative to pass. And and then you can also fool your friend, your opponents, you know, and they don't know which way you're going, and open up opportunities that way. So it's really quite an open hold for the ball. Yeah. And then when you really want to get booking, then that's when you put the ball away a little bit so you can actually run a lot faster and get in. And when you score a try, this is where touchdown comes from. You have to put the ball down on the ground If you can't touch, if you have to touch the ball in the end zone, if you don't,
it's still a live ball.
It's still a live
so
ball.
you just can't run with it and run it in.
You actually have to actually touch the ground.
Got it.
And if you're skittish and you decide I want to run out of bounds, that's the worst thing you can do in rugby because you're now giving the ball over to your opponents by doing that.
Oh.
So you don't want to run out of bounds. You want to just keep going
and get it there.
Yeah, or dump the ball off to your teammate. So
I also emphasize using your feet too. Kicking is very important in rugby.
Right.
It's a totally legitimate play to kick the ball ahead. So if the opposition's running towards you, you can just tap it and it goes over their heads.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Also,
chip kick or something like that.
Yeah, do chip kicks,
rubber.
or you can just grub it along and it just bounces through. You also
that's about the closest thing to a forward pass, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can technically kick the ball forward to either one of your teammates. They have to be behind you when you first start kicking the ball. Yeah. But then they can chase it down and get it, or you can get it yourself.
Got it.
So.
And also, place kicking is very important. When you do the field goal equivalent.
Conversions.
Yeah. In football, you come straight out from the posts, and then you position the ball, and it goes through. In rugby, the ball comes out perpendicular from where it was touched down. So if Todd had been running, he was on the wing, he scores in the left-hand corner. The kick has to be taken perpendicular from that corner.
Yes.
So now you're right on the very edge of the field trying to kick it.
And the goalposts become narrower from that angle, so it's a tougher kick.
So the objective is to try and score as close to the posts as possible.
Right.
And the posts, we haven't mentioned this, the posts are very similar to football posts.
Yeah.
It's two vertical posts with a crossbar.
Yep.
So people are familiar, but it sounds like a lot of skills are necessary. Again, it's not, as you said, it's not just people that can throw the ball and run the ball. There's a great birth of communication and skills that are going to be necessary.
And one of the safety points there is, if you can avoid being injured by passing the ball to someone else. Tackle the person who has the ball.
Yeah.
So if you're running with
that's
the ball,
only contact you have.
Move the ball along. Let's keep the game going. There's no keeping the ball and then falling to the ground and getting hurt. You keep the ball moving, which keeps the game going, which gets you down the field.
Right, and again eliminates that everybody pile on.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds no wonder it's all around because it sounds like it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a room for everybody on that. And on that, I know you talked about there's already we're building here in this area in terms of leagues, but there are a lot of already existing very close to us. So if you were to get involved, you aren't traveling always to Rhode Island. Todd, what are some of those leagues you said are close by?
There's other teams, I mean, throughout the area that you would end up playing. There's also the Wolfhounds in Canton. They are part of the Boston Wolfhounds, and they've been around for quite a while, in fact. Colin played with them last year and had a great time. Large group of kids. A lot of them come down from Boston. But just across from them, just a little further away, is South Shore. And then there's North Shore has a team, Worcester has a team, Essex County has a team, Mystic River has a team. And what we do is we get to the organizer. We, in fact, had a meeting today with the Massachusetts Youth Rugby Organization. And what they do is they try to get all these teams together for a jamboree. And the jamboree is an opportunity for all the kids to get together and to play each other. And that's what we look at. And they would like to absorb even like Providence involved with that because Rhode Island is such a small state. There's only a couple of teams down there for the youth, so we really want to get them involved in all of that as well. So,
actually on that, Todd, they mentioned to us today that there are almost 1,000 high school kids are part of that organization in Massachusetts.
Alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of high school rugby here in our area. In fact, if you wanted to see something in the spring, Zavarian offers games up there. But then there's the New England Rugby Football Union, which Providence is part of, and there's games online. You can find those games. Of course, the Wolfhounds are another team locally here in Canton. And so they're 20, 25, 30 minutes from Mansfield, and you can get to a game. And really kind of get the experience of what it's all about.
So there's a couple different avenues if people want to go and check it out. And you said that there's also some clinics that occur as well if you even want to try it out a little bit and get the feel for it to see if it's something that's for you.
That the kids want to try.
So I approached
and the colleges, too. I forget about the colleges.
And the colleges, So I approached... I was doing my pickup games on Saturdays, and someone wrote an article in the local paper at Wrentham, and that triggered some more interest. And the Wrentham Rec Department approached me and say, what is this? What's going on? What can we do to help?
That's great.
So they're going to stand behind us. They're going to give us pitches in the fall to play on. They're providing the insurance, and they're going to provide all the outreach. through emails, and you know, we're going to get a lot of kids show up for this starting in the fall, and it's not just Wrentham kids. And you know, the word's going to get out.
Sure.
And Wrentham would welcome any child to sign up for this.
So there's room for some Mansfield kids if they know they want to get involved.
Absolutely, it's everybody.
It's a plug and play. Something's ready for them right now. So that's great.
So that's going to be a 10-week program.
So 10 weeks.
It's a 10-week program. It'll probably be about $100 or something, and you know, you just show up. There's really no equipment needed. You just show up in whatever you'd wear for soccer.
Cards.
Just come.
Good. No, that sounds great. Now, I know that before we were chatting about the sport and getting involved and how to do that, Todd, you said that there were kind of 3 main tenets to the whole sport. You said communication, exercise, and teamwork. And you touched on it a little bit. You want to share a little bit more?
I think, you know, you want to at least have the stamina to play the game. So that's the conditioning part. The training, the running. Running's really important. As they get older and they do get into contact, it's a lot more difficult to get up and run after getting hit. But for flag, it is. It's just getting the kids out there. I noticed a few, just to kind of go on to a story here, couple of years ago, Mansfield football game. The boys in the end zone love playing kill the guy with the ball. It's a naturally acclimating thing that boys just love football, and they love tackling one another. And this is just an opportunity for the kids to learn. Once they get past U12 and they begin to be 13, 14, and 15, the U15, then we start coaching them how to tackle. But right now, I mean, get familiar with the game. You know, up until you're 12, find out. You know, I think the child will know more about whether they want to keep playing or not beyond that, and leave it up to them to make that decision. But and then communication. I mean, it's just part of the game. It's calling out plays. Even there are plays in rugby, and just being able to let your teammate know where you are on the field. It's so vital. I mean, because they're going to come up and be confronted with a defender, and they're on the attack, and you're going to want to know where your next guy is, your support. And
that's one of the biggest challenges of coaching especially the smaller kids, is they have this strong desire to keep hold of the ball and keep running with it. And we try so hard to.
They want to be the hero.
They want to be the hero. They want to, and they want to score the touch.
Everybody does. What we do is we actually create phases, and so what we do is we say, okay, you have to pass the ball 5 times before you go in for a score.
Good solution to that.
So everybody has to get the ball, and pass it off, and that presents, some opportunities for other kids to get a chance to score. So we lay that down at the beginning of the scrimmage and say, okay, 5 phases. You have to pass 5 times before anybody can go in and score. That usually alleviates that problem. So.
And then it's also a little bit counterintuitive for the children too, because they're running referee.
And no one pushes the referee like we saw in some recent sporting
There's none of that. There's none of that. There's red cards and yellow cards like in soccer.
Yeah, like in soccer. So it's a fascinating game. I mean, it sounds like there's so much yet to learn, or but once you get into it, you can see where it's fast moving. Every game sounds a little different because again, you're not stopping. There's not necessarily a play. It's what is made of it by the players and kind of the vibe of the game itself and how it goes. And it certainly is a game that meets people where they are at every level, so there's room for that 5-year-old. And you did say, just to recap a little bit, the league itself embraces starting at age 5, so sort of a kindergarten, first grader, and then it's progressive, and then as they get a little older, you're introducing new styles and ways of play because they're ready for it.
So
it's incremental, and you're building on that.
It is.
So that's and it's a safe sport, moms and dads that are out there concerned about that. Safe as anything else that you play and engage in, but it sounds like the league is really coming along, and you're looking for participants. Any last words on the sport before we wrap up?
The one thing which hasn't come up yet is children with special needs. We have quite a few on the group who meet on Saturdays have some level of special needs. Mostly they're on a sensory diet of some sort, and they love that, the pressure and the holding, the pushing and the shoving in a controlled manner.
Sure.
So I like to get it out there because I think that's important. It's become a sport which is attractive to particularly the boys who who need to get some of that out of themselves.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And that is a great
Yeah.
point to make, because
Yeah.
you know, so much is regulated and we're going to stop and do this, and this is a
Yeah.
sport, whereas again, you both have described
Yeah.
very free flowing of the energy, and
Right.
you're running off 80 minutes of energy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now the
Great
youth
point.
don't do that. We usually have 15, 20-minute halves for the youth
Yeah.
when we do have the jamborees.
Yeah.
But you know,
I'll take it as
Yeah.
a parent. I'll
Yeah.
take that.
yeah, yeah.
And the parents love it, by the way. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we talked a little bit about the parents, but you know, in my games, I insist that all the parents come on the field and play and do the best they can. And the
Yep.
mums and dads love it.
I
Yeah.
think I
So,
tried. If my
yeah.
son or daughter
Yeah.
were out there, I think I would have
Yeah.
to give it a shot just to know
Right.
what it's all about, and to
Yep.
figure that and to really truly understand
Yeah.
it. Well, this has
Well,
been
this is a good point to tell you. This is for you.
No,
boys. Yep.
oh my goodness.
Compliment to me. But,
That is fun. Thank
yeah.
you, Todd.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you, guys. Oh my
Yeah, they can
goodness.
kick that around a little bit.
Ugh, just another
throw
one
it.
to be kicked around the old homestead, but I think that they will enjoy it, and
Yeah.
who knows? You
and
never
if they
know.
want to come over and play, they can definitely come over and
I
play.
think they may be looking
know,
for it. You've
yeah,
got
yeah.
two guys that love the rough and tumble,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah.
and those jerseys are pretty sharp. So
Yeah.
I might just want one of those. You might see me
Exactly.
suit up just to get one of those alone.
Yeah.
So this is outstanding. Well, gentlemen, thank you both so
Thank you.
much
Thank
for
you
coming
very much,
on.
Danielle.
And
Yeah.
you know, I highly recommend to folks watching at home to take a minute, and after the show, there's going to be some websites to learn information about the league, where to watch one, and even how to contact both Todd and Chip in case you'd like to get involved. They're going to have the information that you need and put you on the path, and it sounds like they're very close by in Rentham, so that's a good spot. So we couldn't be more pleased that both these gentlemen stopped by here this evening to chat and share their information. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as always, to everybody watching at home, I can't say the next time you're going to see me necessarily playing rugby, but tune in. You never know. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to Mansfield Matters. I'm your host, Danielle Fish. And as always, if it's happening in Mansfield, it matters.